Hello everyone! Today we're going to be talking about the latest addition to the Guilty Gear roster, which is of course going to be Elphelt. They finally did it, they finally brought her back from the Exer days. I'm honestly shocked that it's taken this long to bring her back. She's a very popular character. She's finally here and she comes with a new personality and a new moveset. So today I just want to talk about the character, my general impressions of her. Do I think that she's interesting? Do I think that she's fun? And how good do I think she is? And just talk about her kit a little bit, what's good about it, what's bad about it, that type of thing. So just as a general vibe check on the character, I've been playing her a lot ever since she dropped, and I've been having an absolute blast with her. This is easily the most fun I've had with a DLC character in this game, and probably the most fun I've had with a character that isn't Ram up to this point. I think that she is super fun, and I really like what she brings to the roster. And I think they did a good job of just, making her feel like Elphelt, but also making her feel like a new character at the same time. Before we get into gameplay related stuff, I want to talk about just the character Elphelt and her personality and her aesthetic and everything, because I feel like they actually knocked it out of the park with this character, and she is at this point by far my favorite character aesthetically and personality wise in this game. Elphelt was a character that I liked back in Exert. I thought she was cool already, but they really just knocked it out of the park with this design, taking her in this direction of being, the lead singer of a metal band. I love what they did with that and how much personality she has and all of her moves with all the screaming she does and all of that. And I don't know, I just really like what they did with her. I think they did a great job. Now, with that aside, we can talk about the gameplay of the character. And before we get into this, I want to know what you guys over on YouTube think. How strong do you think Elphelt is? And how fun do you think her kit is? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think she's a strong character? Do you think she's got a lot of room to improve? Let me know what you think, and while you're down there, please consider dropping a like and subbing to the channel. It would really help me out, and I'd really appreciate it. Going into my thoughts on the character, it's honestly kind of complex to talk about her a little bit. Obviously, things are still developing, and I think Elphelt's kind of interesting because on layer 1, she's a very easy character to just pick up and play. If you haven't played Guilty Gear in a while and you thought about getting into the game to play Elphelt, honestly, now's the perfect time. She's a very easy character to get into. But there's a lot of nuance to her as well, and there's a lot of problem solving that you have to do. These are just my initial impressions. We'll see how things develop. Elphelt in this game is primarily a rushdown / mix-up character. She really wants to use her Rekka series, which has a high and low built into it, along with her 214H, which is basically a replacement for Pineberry in this game, and go for a bunch of high-low, left-right, strike-throw type of mix-ups. And I feel like they made her play fairly unique from the other rushdown characters. She's kind of a blend of like a basic, kind of well-rounded character and a more mix-up heavy character. Easily the biggest highlight of this character, with that said, is of course going to be her offense. The biggest thing is her Rekka series. Her 214S puts her into a Rekka series. And from this Rekka, she has an overhead follow-up and a low follow-up, and these are both unreactable. You cannot react to these even in the slightest. You just have to hard guess. And even from those Rekkas, from the overhead, for example, you can do another overhead, or you can go for a low Rekka instead. So it's not just one built-in 50-50, it's actually two built-in 50-50s. And on top of that, she can either go back into Rekka 1 and kind of restart the mix-up all over again, or she can go for a very safe on block frame trap in the H follow-up, where on block it is only -5 if I'm not mistaken, and it has a lot of pushback. So it's a very, very strong Rekka series, and I think the idea of how you defend against this character, since I've seen a lot of people asking about that, you don't. And I think that's kind of the point, is you're supposed to deny her this situation as much as possible, because if you get caught blocking this character when she has 50 meter, especially, where she's able to, convert these either into super with Kara super or convert it into Roman cancel, that's when the character is extremely threatening. So your game plan is to really avoid letting her do that. And it's definitely built into her kit as well, because a lot of her moves canceled into Rekka are actually 6V'able. So pretty much all of her moves, if you cancel them into the Rekka series, they will be 6V'able. The only exception to this is her 5H. So if you are in range or in a situation where you can make them block a 5H and are close enough to do Rekka, that's kind of the party starter. That's a situation you want with this character. So, whenever you get a meaty, you can do like close / 5H into Rekka series. That's when it's at its realest. Outside of that, you're going to have to do some things to actually get the opponent to have to respect the Rekka series. And I think that's what she designed around. I think she designed around this kind of push and pull game of trying to force your opponent to respect you going into the Rekka series, because once you do, she is very, very powerful, and you can snowball people super effectively with her from that point on. So because of that, defensive options like 6P and FD are pretty good against her because they help deny those types of situations. Now, her other interesting tool is going to be her 214H, and I really want to talk about this move because this move is very strange, and you would probably not expect it to be as good at the things that it's good at. So of course, the one thing that everyone will point out is it's a good Oki tool, which, yeah, it is a good Oki tool. You know, you can knock your opponent down, and there are tons of different setups you can do where you can go high-low, you can go left-right, you can get good strike throws off of this. Yeah, it is a very strong Oki tool, and everyone kind of knows that. That's the most obvious thing about the tool. It is very threatening, it's very powerful, and it really helps make the character more than just the Rekka, right? She's not just a mix-up character because of the Rekka, she's a mix-up character because of the types of mix-ups she can go for while she has the Pineberry on you. With the Pineberry, you know, she can do a setup into delay JD, which is a multi-hitting overhead that stalls her momentum. She can go empty low, she can, you know, kind of fake the cross up, jump back over you and go for an overhead on the other side. Tons of things that she can do that are very, very strong. She has access to a bunch of fuzzies if you have meter. Very good tool. However, what I think is most interesting about this move, and what I really want to talk about with it, is how it interacts with most grounded normals in this game. So I mentioned, you know, reversal 6P is a pretty good option against the character because it's not just the fact that Rekka is 6P'able from a lot of moves. Even things like her Far Slash into 5H has a gap that can be 6P'd. There's a lot of little things like that that make 6P good against the character. But the biggest problem comes from, obviously, during a lot of your block normals. So if someone blocks a 2H, for example, 2H into Rekka is not a true block string. You know, your opponent can 6P it. And that creates kind of a problem where it's like, okay, you don't really have other cancel options. You know, she has a Fireball, not really what you want to do when you're up that close, and she has Bridal Express, 214K, which is punishable on block at that range. The move that is important here is actually her 214H, and that's because this move has an incredibly high hurt box while she is doing the flip. If you go on Dust Loop and look at the hurt box, this move is so high up in the air when she's doing it. She actually causes most moves to whiff when she does it. And it's not just from 2H, it's not just because I went over Ram in this case. So I might do like Fire Slash into 214H. Ram 6P just won't hit me. And it's not even just 6P. Even though I have Ram 5P, which is normally an amazing anti-air, right? Even her 5P isn't going to hit me in any of these situations. It just doesn't hit high enough to hit her out of the flip. This is not only important for offense, where it gives her another way to circumvent people mashing 6P, because in most cases, she'll go over the character 6P, or the character 6P won't be fast enough, one of the two. And in general, it's just a really fast reaction check where, you know, if you're pressuring your opponent and you're doing a block string, reacting to this move is difficult because really the only option is to like air throw her out of it. So it's not similar to like a Kai Frude arc where you could mash 5P on that and get a extended combo. Versus Elphelt, you pretty much have to air throw her out of this because of how her hurt box functions. So it makes it really good in pressure to just kind of steal turns. If your opponent ends up getting counter hit by this or their mash whiffs, you get a full combo. If they end up blocking it, you get to get a mix up. So it's very strong for pressure for that type of purpose, and is good at circumventing people mashing 6P. However, it's also very good in neutral. The thing that makes this move interesting for neutral is because it is frame 7 off the ground. That's basically when it gets the property will make most moves with. Because of that, you can actually use it to go over a lot of grounded pokes in this game. If your opponent is using like a Far Slash or a 5H, or even in some cases something like a 6P as a counter poke, in many cases you can beat all of these moves just by doing 214H. And as long as you got off the ground, you'll probably go over the move. And you get pretty good reward from this. In most cases, you'll at least get a knockdown. And sometimes you get a very good combo, and you might even be able to wall break them from it. So I think it's a very interesting option in neutral because of how it interacts. Talking about her neutral for a bit, this is when things definitely get a little bit weird with this character, and you have to get kind of unorthodox. Her neutral is definitely not bad by any means, but it is not exceptional. It's definitely the area where you have to put in the most work with the character. She has some good poke. She has Far Slash, you know, pretty good far-reaching poke. It's not super active or anything, and a lot of the times if you're trying to whiff punish somebody, you don't really get much for whiff punishing them with it, because while normally if you are in range for Far Slash, it will combo into Far Slash or 5H like this. If you're just a little outside that range, it won't combo. And while it is good that, frankly, like, she is able to do this, and if she is in range, she gets a knockdown from it. Or if she's in range, she can do a blue wild assault combo from it and even break the wall. The problem is you're not usually in range to actually do that with this character. You're usually going to be a little further away where it doesn't actually combo into anything. So because of that, she's pretty bad at whiff punishing, and in general, I'd say she's pretty bad at playing reactively. You have to play pretty preemptive overall, which is not necessarily a problem, but when you're having to play preemptive, it's riskier and not as consistent as being able to play reactive to your opponent. So outside of Far Slash, she has her 2S, and her 2S is actually a pretty good move. It's just a little unorthodox because it's a bit slow. I think it's 13 frame startup, but it is very disjointed. The end of it is just completely disjointed, and it's active for 6 frames, which means it's actually a good stop sign. But because it's so slow, you don't really get to press it on reaction. You just have to kind of like, oh, I think my opponent's gonna run at me, I'm gonna hit 2S, that type of thing. Her 5H is also very disjointed and has pretty good range to it, but it's 14 frame startup and has a lot of whiff recovery. So if you end up whiffing the move, you're going to get punished. If your opponent happens to jump over it, you're going to get punished, that type of thing. All of her neutral buttons, while they have good qualities, they also have pretty big downsides. Her 6P is very strong. It actually is probably one of the better 6Ps in the game, I feel like, especially with the reward attached to it. I feel like you get a very good combo on counter hit, and on normal hit or on block, you get pressure from it still as an anti-air. And even as a grounded counter poke, I think it's pretty decent for what it is. But that's again 6P, it's mostly a preemptive option. She has other things that are also still pretty good in neutral, such as her 2H. Her 2H is a little bit slower, but it's very, very forward advancing. It goes very far. And it's only -4 on block. And as I was saying, with Elphelt, you want to force your opponent to block something. So if you can force your opponent to, you know, block a 2H in neutral or something and get a Rekka off, and suddenly they're in the mix, that's very good for you. If they're doing reversal 6P or something, you know, usually you can just kind of let them do it and then whiff punish them. Or against some characters, if they don't have a 6P that hits her out of 214H, you can just do 214H. Elphelt 6P does beat them. The other option I guess is worth talking about for a neutral real quick is just her Fireball. Her Fireball feels not actually that strong. It feels okay, and in some matchups it's actually pretty good. Against like slower characters, it's pretty nice to be able to harass them with this type of move. Whenever she shoots it, it will go about halfway and then it will home in on the opponent with the second part of the attack. It's pretty decent for just kind of controlling space, but you know, it's not very high reward. It has a decent amount of startup and recovery to it. So it's the type of thing where if your opponent makes a hard read, you're going to get punished for it. But it's nice to have. And the only other thing that I want to draw attention to real quick is going to be her defense, because her defense is not that great. She has 2 5 frames in her 5P and her 2P. They don't have much range, and the bigger issue is that they very frequently don't actually combo into anything. So a lot of the time, if you're at like this type of range, her 6P isn't going to connect, and it's the only Gatling you have that would work for this. Outside of that, your only other option is your 6 frame, which is your 2K. Her 2K is good, but it is a 6 frame, so if your opponent is tech throwing you or something, it's not going to work because it's not fast enough. The problem with Elphelt overall is that her neutral is very preemptive. She struggles to deal with characters with good low profile moves or characters that just outrange her outright, because she's not good at whiff punishing. And even her 214H, you know, going over a lot of grounded moves is very nice, but it's a preemptive decision, you know? So all in all, the thing that I think is interesting about Elphelt is that the difficulty with the character is figuring out how to play neutral consistently with her, where obviously when you get started, once you get your offense, she is very, very threatening. It's just getting to that state that can be kind of difficult, and that's what you have to figure out with this character, and that's where a lot of the problems come in with some matchups. Most matchups I've played, it feels relatively uphill to play neutral with this character, but I don't think it's anything that's, you know, not workable. I think it is definitely workable, but you just have to play kind of unorthodox with her, and I think that's fine. So yeah, I think the character is super fun. I think she's really interesting, and currently I would say she's probably somewhere around high tier. I would say like right outside top 10 is my current kind of hopeful opinion, but again, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like and subbing to the channel, as it would really help me out. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.